Well, welcome. Well, I love you all more. I'm so glad you all are here. Well, Barack and I are so excited to be here with you all tonight. I want to start by thanking everyone from the HBCU First Look Film Festival for putting together such a terrific event. Yes, way to go. The incredible team here at the National Museum of African American History and Culture, as well as all of the civil rights leaders and organizers of the March on Washington here with us tonight. I understand we have some folks here. You all are the giants whose shoulders the rest of us are standing on. And that's really what this film is all about. Sharing the stories of the folks who pushed us towards a better, more just world. And that's especially important when it's a story that's been overlooked for far too long. Now, I hope we all know about the March on Washington. Can't be sure nowadays with what they're doing with history. But we know about the huge crowds and the historic speeches. But the story of what went on behind the scenes is a little more hazy. We don't know much about the folks who did the hard work, who packed the lunches and sorted through the accommodations and figured out where all those folks were going to go to the bathroom. The unsung organizers who willingly and freely devoted thousands of hours so that people from every background and every part of the country could come together to peacefully rally for justice and equality. Bayard Rustin was the driving force behind all of that. His dedication, his optimism, his expert execution, he set the stage for the march and all the progress that flowed from it. And yet his name is not synonymous with that history as so many others. An openly gay Black man did not easily fit in, even in the heart of a movement for civil rights and justice. And he wasn't celebrated in our history either. To us, this film is about painting that fuller story of our history. Triumphs, complications, all of it. And I want to highlight how important I think this is for all of the young people here in the room with us tonight, because I know how easy it is to doubt who you are, to wonder if the way you look or where you're from or who you love will leave you on the margins of the broader American story. But as you watch this movie, I want you to let Bayard Rustin's example give you the strength to silence those doubts. Let his story remind you that no matter the complication, no matter the hardship, you can make history. Your story matters. And as we look around the country and the world today, we need you to believe that now more than ever. So I want to thank all of you again, to the HBCU Film Festival for this incredible evening. And I want to give a special bit of love to our director, George Wolfe, who literally put his blood, sweat, and tears into telling this story. To Coleman Domingo and the entire Rustin cast, who, as you will soon see, delivered some jaw-dropping performances. To our co-producer, Bruce Cohen, for his unwavering support. And of course, thank you to Netflix and our Higher Ground team for bringing this story to life and organizing tonight's special screening. So, without further ado, I want to introduce someone who knows a little something about making history. Y'all, please welcome my husband, Barack Obama.
Hey, What's up? Oh, it's good to see you. I see you. Hello, everybody. How y'all doing? So I know we must have some bison in the house. I know that's right. Who else we got? I see you, Morgan. I see you. Well, it is wonderful to see all of you. And by the way, it's great to see even more of you since the strikes are over. Some of you may know there was a strike in Hollywood. And as somebody who cares a lot about the power of workers in this country, and as the father of somebody who writes in film, I am glad that both the writers and the actors came to an agreement that recognizes their worth and their work. This is also Veterans Day, so I just want to make, I want to express thank you to the people who serve this country. Is one of the great honors of my life was being Commander-in-Chief, and I witnessed firsthand the extraordinary sacrifices that both our veterans and their families made on behalf of us, and so we could not be prouder of them. So in 2013, I had the honor of awarding Bayard Rustin the Presidential Medal of Freedom. And for those of you who may not be aware, this is the highest civilian honor that can be conferred for people who have helped to shape our country and move it to a more perfect union. And back then, I described Bayard as somebody with unshakable optimism, nerves of steel, and most importantly, a faith that if a cause is just and people are organized, nothing can stand in our way. And it is hard to overstate Bayard Rustin's influence on the civil rights movement. He was a pioneer of freedom rides, to desegregate interstate bus travel. He went on a bus in 1942 and got arrested for not sitting in the back, 20 years before the publicized freedom rides took place. That's how far ahead he was of his time. He helped introduce the Gandhian concept of nonviolent resistance, helped advise Dr. King, served as one of Dr. King's key advisors in the Montgomery bus boycott. He helped organize the Southern Christian Leadership Conference. He mentored countless young activists to fight for equality and for freedom. So this is one of the seminal figures that changed the course of American history. Without him, I might not have been president. You might not be sitting where you are today. And yet, for decades, Bayard Rustin was denied his rightful place in history. Most of you probably didn't read about him necessarily when you were in elementary school, or middle school, or maybe even high school. And the main reason was because back in the 40s and 50s, he was openly gay. Imagine that. Think about that. Here's somebody who was courageous enough to be who he was, despite the fact that he was almost certainly going to be ostracized, fired from jobs, pushed aside. And that's, in fact, what happened. Arrested multiple times. And no medal can change what happened to him. No film can ease the pain of generations of Americans who face discrimination because of who they are and who they love. But Michelle and my hope is that by telling Bayard's story, more people will appreciate leaders like him who brought America closer to its highest ideals, even though they weren't in the limelight, even though they operated behind the scenes, because that's what it takes sometimes to change. I mean, these days we're so obsessed with that 15 minutes of fame, and everybody wants to be an influencer, and everybody wants to be liked. But it turns out that that's not where change happens. And we can honor the legacy of Bayard Rustin and others by taking our place in this long march towards true equality. Now, it's also true that while Rustin tells Bayard's story, it's not just about him, as you'll see. It's also about the thousands of ordinary folks from all walks of life, most of them no older than the students who are in attendance today, who showed the world what America looks like at its best, who forced America to look in the mirror and say, is that who we are, or can we be better? And their work and their spirit continues to give us a roadmap for confronting the injustices of our time. So Michelle and I are incredibly proud of the team that made Rustin. At this time, I'd like to ask the cast and crew and filmmaking team to stand, those of you who are in the audience, so we can acknowledge your work. Give them a big round of applause. We're proud of you. Thank you. Yeah, it turns out making a film is a little bit like the civil rights movement. There's some people up front, but then there are a whole bunch of people behind the scenes who are making it happen. But now I'd like to ask a couple of people to join us on stage. First, please welcome the incredibly talented star of Rustin, Coleman Domingo. Come on out here, Coleman. I was going to wear Coleman's suit tonight, but I didn't have those matching pair of shoes. As you will see, his performance is brilliant, and it's a tour de force, and it's part of why this is such an incredibly moving film. I also want to bring up the brilliant director who helped to realize this vision on the screen. So please give it up for the man that we've all been waiting for, somebody who has done extraordinary work in theater, in film, George C. Wolfe.
Hello, everyone. About 2 or 3 weeks before we filmed in D.C., we had a tech scout. That's where you go around and figure out where the trucks are going to be parked, and there were about 70 people standing around. And they were talking about where catering's going to be over, and the holding tent for the extras will be over here. And they were talking, and they had out their cell phones, and they were texting, and they were communicating with each other. And it was all these people working really hard, passionately to achieve this goal. And at one point, I just said, I want to stop and point out the fact that back in 1963, a remarkable human being and a remarkable team of people didn't have cell phones, didn't have texting, didn't have emails. What they had was the ferocity of heart, the sense of commitment, the sense of responsibility. And together, Bayard and this remarkable team of people changed the world. And we need to acknowledge the miracle of what they did and the ferocity of what they did and the unbelievable hard work. There have been many marches since then. They created the template. Bayard created the template. I consider him in many respects the ideal American because his sense of service, but also his curiosity about others. And when you are curious about others, you lean in and you want to connect with them. And if you aren't curious, you can replace that with fear, which gives you permission to hate and dislike and do worse. So I am deeply honored, deeply humbled, and deeply grateful for this evening and the chance to share this story of this remarkable man and this remarkable group of people with you. Thank you, and I hope you enjoy.